How's everyone doing? Pretty good? Having fun? Dino Daze! I know, get excited. So my name is Dr. Joseph Frederickson. I am the director of the Weiss Earth Science Museum who brought all the fossils that you see in this room today. So if you didn't get a chance to see those yet, make sure you stop by. We do actually have a really cool fossil dinosaur in the back corner there. That's a Deinonychus replica. We'll talk about that a little bit in this lecture. So today we're going to talk about a movie that was very influential to my life as a paleontologist, and probably to a lot of you as well. Jurassic Park, Jurassic World. Has anyone seen the new movie yet? No? Good, neither have I. So that's not going to be in this presentation at all. So we'll go ahead and we'll talk a little bit about the science of Jurassic World. So let me just start off by saying, no, this movie is not a documentary. Jurassic Park, Jurassic World, and all of the other sequels, it is a work of fiction, and it is supposed to be for fun. So don't think that I'm going to be too critical of the movie, because I know what it was there for. It's there to sell tickets and be entertaining. And I think this is a good example of that, of doing some raptor training. Could we do that? Who knows? Probably not, but that's still in the realm of fiction, and that'll be outside of what we're going to be talking about today. We're going to stick with the actual science of Jurassic Park that we can verify from the fossil record. So, Jurassic Park wasn't all bad, okay? The novel was written in 1990, and by the time that it was written by Michael Crichton, the movie was already in production because they knew that they had a hit on their hand. Directed by Steven Spielberg, it was an instant classic, and it really pushed the boundaries of not just science fiction movies, but also special effects. And I was only about 5 years old when that movie came out, and I remember going to see it probably weekly with my parents and my aunts and uncles and my grandma. Many of them are actually here today helping out. And I think I saw it probably about 15 times before it came out on video, and then watched it non-stop on a loop. So I'm a big fan of Jurassic Park. And one of the reasons why I was such a big fan of the movie is because of how it presented the science. And it's true that I am not one of the only people who was so inspired by the science in this work of fiction that led into a life in professional science, as a scientist. In fact, we call this the Jurassic Park generation, and it is a whole group of paleontologists who are now becoming professionals right out of grad school that are in that same age range that were inspired by the movie. And we're really hoping that the Jurassic World franchise will do the same to many of you that are in the audience, that this is going to be an inspiration for you to follow on and basically take on the shovels and pickaxes from where we're going to leave off in our generation and find all the dinosaurs that we left behind and couldn't find. So hopefully that'll be coming in the near future. Unfortunately, we still have our problems. That's okay, we're gonna fix those. So we're gonna talk a little bit about the science of Jurassic Park, and we're gonna start very broadly, and we're gonna work our way back through to things that are a little bit more specific. But like I said, we're not gonna be super critical. So we're gonna have Mr. Dino DNA over here help us out. All right, so what is the crux of Jurassic Park? Is that the Jurassic Park is full of dinosaurs. It is a park that was made of genetically modified dinosaurs from the past that were brought back and put into a zoo-like structure. Go ahead to the next one. But not everything in Jurassic World is a dinosaur. In fact, many of the things that you see here on the screen, the mosasaur and the pterosaurs that led to some of the biggest body counts in the movie, are actually not dinosaurs at all. They're closely related to dinosaurs, but they're still reptiles, but they're not actually dinosaurs proper. So dinosaurs are a specific group that are most closely related to birds and crocodiles. They're kind of nested in between those. They're not crocodiles, but birds are related to dinosaurs in a way that they basically came from a lineage of them. So we call birds and T-Rex, Stegosaurus, and all those things, those are dinosaurs proper. The mosasaur, that was everyone's favorite in the first Jurassic World, is actually more closely related to snakes, or even Komodo dragons and other monitor lizards. And here's actually a Komodo dragon skull next to a mosasaur skull side by side, and you can see that they share many similarities in their anatomy and overall structure. They actually look nothing like a dinosaur. So even though these things were living at the same time as dinosaurs, they're actually a different group of reptiles. And we have a real mosasaur tooth that you can punch in the back row. So not everything in Jurassic World is a dinosaur. Claim number 2, Jurassic Park is full of Jurassic dinosaurs. And this is a picture of what the Jurassic looked like. It was a kind that was well represented here in North America. Some of the biggest dinosaurs that ever lived during the Jurassic, including our large apatosaur over there. So that humerus that is against the wall, it's a real apatosaur, long-necked dinosaur bone, and that's real. It's about 150 million years old, which is really impressive. But according to Jurassic Park, actually not all of these dinosaurs come from just the Jurassic period. The Mesozoic, the time when non-avian dinosaurs lived, is broken up into the Triassic, Jurassic, and Cretaceous periods, as many of you know. And most of the dinosaurs from Jurassic Park, at least the first one, actually come from the end of the Cretaceous. That's Triceratops, T-Rex, and our raptor. We do have some Jurassic dinosaurs, like the Stegosaurus and the long-necked dinosaur, and even early Jurassic animals like the Dilophosaurus. But they do pretty much spread the entirety of the latter half of the Mesozoic. All right, a big part of the book, and a little bit in the movie, is that birds evolved from dinosaurs. They mention this many, many times, including this fantastic scene with the ornithomimids running through the field. And Timmy saying, oh, they are flocking this way because they look like a bunch of birds flocking. And it's true, these things are very, very bird-like. And we do know that birds are modified dinosaurs. So if anyone tells you dinosaurs are completely extinct, you can point to a bird outside and say, no, they're actually still with us and very, very diverse. This is Archaeopteryx. It's one of the most famous transitional fossils in the world, and it shows us some of the similarities between birds and dinosaurs. This one has a little bit of bird-like traits and dinosaur traits, or reptilian traits together, including it has teeth, it has claws on its hands, it has a long tail, but it also has feathers, it has wings, it has hollow bones, it has 3 toes, just like modern birds do today. And this thing lived back in the Jurassic period. So, don't be like this kid. Not very scary. It looks like a 6-foot turkey. Yes, dinosaurs would look very bird-like in a lot of ways, but that doesn't make them any less scary. So this is actually the foot of a modern emu. If you don't think that this animal is scary, I'd like you to meet one in person. If it was standing in front of you, it would tower over you. And these feet are powered by gigantic muscles in their leg with huge claws on the end. They could pretty much rip you apart pretty easily. So I think a 6-foot turkey is pretty darn scary. All right, let's get into the biology here. T-Rex could easily outrun or at least keep up with the Jeep. That was a fantastic scene, but the physics doesn't really work out. T-Rex was just much too big to run that fast at full grown. Juveniles, baby T-Rex, probably were very, very fast, and maybe Thomas Carr will talk about that a little bit. But when they got big, they basically became lumbering apex predators that really didn't need to run down their prey using absolute speed. And actually, modeling has shown that T-Rexes probably wouldn't be able to run super fast because they wouldn't be able to get both their feet off the ground. Has anyone ever seen an elephant jump? No, you've never seen an elephant jump because an elephant can't jump. An elephant cannot get all of its feet off the ground at the same time. It's too heavy. If it does that, it will break its legs. Same thing with T-Rex. If a T-Rex were to jump off the ground, it likely would hurt itself quite badly. So T-Rex didn't like to do that, which means that it had to basically walk at a very fast pace. Now it had very long legs, so that would be a very quick walk, but it wouldn't be count as galloping or running like we see in a lot of larger mammals. All right, so let's talk about Velociraptor, one of my favorite dinosaurs from the movie. And this is how they depicted it, as a human-sized or slightly larger predator that would chase people around and eat them. But as we saw from the fossil that we have back there, Velociraptor is actually quite small. They wouldn't have been all that big, probably about this high off the ground, and they also would have been fluffy, very adorable. They would have been covered in feathers. We actually have evidence of fossils from Velociraptor that actually has quill knobs in their arms. These are holes where the hard part, the rachis of the feather, actually sticks into the bone. So not only was it covered in feathers, it had full wings, which actually made it pretty cool. So this thing would have looked like a 3-foot tall turkey. Now the dinosaur that we have back there, that is Deinonychus. That is a North American raptor that lived during the middle part of the Cretaceous, and that was actually the dinosaur that the Velociraptor from the movie was based on. It's probably a little bit harder of a name to say. Velociraptor sounded cooler, so this is the one that Michael Crichton used. All right, so the crux of the entire movie is that scientists can bring extinct species back to life. Does anyone think we can actually do that? No? It seems like pretty good science fiction, right? Well, it's true. It's actually a full area of science called resurrection biology, and it has been done in the past. There's actually a Pyrenean ibex that went extinct in 2003 that was actually cloned from preserved tissue that was brought back from the dead some years after the last one that went extinct. So this would have been similar to what happened in Jurassic Park, just a lot smaller time scale. Unfortunately, that animal that they cloned only lived for a few minutes. It died shortly after, which makes it also not only the first animal to be resurrected from extinction, but also the only one to go extinct twice, which I think is really interesting. You probably have heard that scientists are trying to bring the mammoth back to life. That is pretty cool. It's a lot smaller of a time scale. Mammoths went extinct only about 5,000 years ago in some places of the world. And some of the ones where we actually find them are areas that have never defrosted, like the Siberian Arctic, where they actually have tundra and permafrost that is still cold to this day. Which basically means that these mammoth blocks were in giant freezers, which is cool. That's usually a good way to preserve DNA. And this has actually allowed scientists to map out the entire genome of these animals. So, unfortunately, just straight up cloning them is not an option. Even over the course of like 10,000 years, in that time scale, DNA begins to break down. So even though they know what the entire genetic code of a mammoth looks like, they're not able to have a complete set so that they can actually reproduce this animal. So what they want to do instead is actually use something called CRISPR gene editing software. Basically, they can take a gene out of a mammoth skeleton and put it into a living Asian elephant. And if you do this enough times, you basically change out all the gene differences, you can basically turn an Asian elephant into a woolly mammoth. Now, that might sound really ridiculous, but it's something that we do all the time. Many of you probably have gone to the pet store and seen these fish. These are called glowfish, and they are literally fish that glow under a black light. That's not normal. Fish don't do that. In fact, vertebrates don't have the ability to fluoresce. That ability actually comes from coral. And scientists literally took regular fish called tetras, put in the genes from coral, and created glowfish in the lab using the very same technique that they want to do to bring back mammoth and mastodons. Now, what about dinosaurs? We know that dinosaur DNA is not going to be able to be found, so we can't do the same technique as we could for mammoth. That DNA is 66 million years or older, so literally we will not have the ability to change, for example, a chicken into a dinosaur in that same way. Instead, scientists have proposed maybe making what we call a chickenosaurus, where you take the genes that still exist in birds that have dinosaurian traits, and you essentially turn the bird genes off. And this would allow a chicken to grow a tail, or a chicken to have claws, or a chicken to have teeth instead of a beak. And in this way, you can make a chicken that looks like its ancestors. That's a pretty cool idea. The best part about it, if this thing ever gets out and starts to have babies, it's just going to make more chickens, which aren't very scary. Now, will these genetic monsters destroy the ecosystem and endanger humans? Probably the answer is no. We are not quite sure because it's never happened before, but I'm pretty sure that we were able to kill these things once back before we had all the technology and were polluting the world, so it's probably most likely that we would be able to do it again. Any of this stuff would be very expensive. It wouldn't be something that would be done on a large scale, like, say, a whole island full of animals. It would probably be done once and then never again. So I don't suspect that we're going to have woolly mammoths taking over Wisconsin anytime soon. So, in conclusion, there are all the claims that we talked about today in Jurassic Park and Jurassic World. And We have a lot of things that are semi-true, some things that are true, many things that are false, and some things that we are still yet to know, which is why it's so exciting to look at how these movies and the science of them hold up over the decades. All right, I want to thank you all for coming to this talk, and I'll be happy to answer questions that you may have.
If you have any questions, please raise your hand. I can run around with the microphone so that way we can hear you a little bit better. Anyone have any questions?
Awesome. I think you did a good job, Joe.